Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the beautiful circuit of Fuji. Welcome to Japan. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the commentary box, like always, a legend himself and the master of how to send it Fu, Cameron DeBassos. Cameron, welcome. Glad to have you here. Welcome to the beautiful Mount Fuji. I saw you skiing a little bit earlier.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and good evening, everybody. Fuji, tricky, even more difficult within the likes of a hypercar. I thought I knew the circuit, then I forgot it was in a GT3 and an LMP2 that I'm able to drive around here. So it was a bit of a tricky one to get accustomed to the circuit and get a proper understanding of how the cars work around here. But it just shows also that the hypercars are going to have a bit of a difficult time around the circuit, especially with its flowing nature and all of that. But I think that's something that we'll cover a bit more in the track guide that we have prepared for our amazing audience and for everyone else.
That's it, and absolutely a massive welcome to all you out in the virtual grandstands for the second last round of the championship. We're in for an absolute stunner. It's close in terms of championship points. We'll take a look at that just now. But also, it is a main decider, considering you win this season, you take home the first ever crown of the Raceface.Pro LMU Championship, the Covenant Crown. So this round is crucial, considering most drivers have already used their drop points.
Yeah, so it's a great feature for the championship to have that drop round included, but it's also making it quite difficult, especially for our drivers who might not be having the greatest race. Oh, that one race where they got bad, but then another one that also goes not into their direction. So it's a bit of a tricky one. Drivers who don't have the best opportunity or trying to give their best and decide which round they want to drop really when it comes to the championship standings. But they all want to win the championship and be named the first inaugural champion of our LMU series.
Well, that's it. You got to keep yourself at the top of the order. You got to ensure that you're in for the race. But that being said, Cam, you have done a lap around the circuit in one of our magical hypercars, and keeping to the circuit itself, heading out on Toyota. Let's go and take a look at that track guide.
Welcome to Fuji Speedway. Set beneath the shadow of Mount Fuji, this high-speed circuit is all about precision and power. Let's dive into turn one on board the majestic Toyota hypercar that have had many successes. As we go down the long main straight, it's a hard braking and down the gears as it's a very tricky hairpin, and lockups and the rear being unsettled is quite common here, so you have to be very cautious not to really over-rotate the car. Then it's flat out for a little bit, and then a very small quick dab by spotting the brake marker on the fence, down 2 gears, maybe even 1, and a quick flick to the left and throttling out. Now, this is where it's tricky, and many drivers will have it. It's full throttle, but you also have to trail brake. Drivers will have to be cautious not to oversteer, too much throttle, and not also braking hard there. Then it's harder the brakes, down into first gear and into another tricky left-hander, and then full out until the next chicane. Drivers will be able to use the entire circuit here in order to gain as much momentum. Then it's hard on the brakes, down the gears, into first. They can use this piece of curbing to mount it properly in order to get a good drive, but it will also unsettle the car if you do not get it right. Next is the final sector. Very fast, very flowy, not much time really to gather your thoughts. It's a quick right into a fast left, run out wide to the outside curb, brake onto a left part again, and then on the throttle, and then before you can think, you're braking again for a right-hander, which leads you onto the final straight. And it's a long straight, as we will be switching over and just seeing how much porpoising these hypercars will be experiencing. The drivers just shaking you about. They will be shaken left, right, and centered, making it very difficult to focus. But that is a lap around Fuji Speedway in the shadows of Mount Fuji. Majestic, fast, wasn't oval before, not anymore. A host for magnificent races, and I'm sure tonight will be one that we will not forget.
With that being said, we're in for a rather exciting time, and well, you did bring up that it used to be an oval that wasn't quite worked out. It was actually a circuit that was built for a chap's family, out of all darn things. But that's being said, let's talk about our family here at Raceface.Pro. Looking at our standings, Chris Stalls on 101 points, only 5 points ahead of Johan Kleinans, who has been on a great run. He's got Devard Null chasing him down for third, along with Jeffrey LaRue in fourth place. Lionel Clue, along with Mark van Rensburg, Jan van Viviers, along with Jody Seidman, Henko van der Berg, and Arno Kraus, rounding out our top 10. Let's take a look at our GT3s. Cameron, over to you.
On our GT3s, we have the likes of Bernard Kruger leading the way with 114 points, but close on his heels, snapping at his ankles, is Bernard Barkhuis, and these two have been going hammer and tongs with one another this entire championship. But third, lurking in the shadows, is Johan Blichnout. And fourth, we have Mark Roth, Julian Brains, and Daniel de Villiers hoping to bring the Fighting Mustang all the way to the front. And in seventh, we have Jason Farmer, followed by Dennis Gillett, Dion Cup, and Aiden Russell. These are drivers who might seem out for the count, but you never know. There's still much more positions to gain. Might not be for the victory, but they're still fighting for honor and pride, especially in the land of the rising sun.
Heading down to the track. Now, this is where it's interesting. Qualifying is underway, but there is a little bit of a rumor, however, coming in of possible rain during the course of the race. Cam, how's that going to influence the cars around this circuit, considering we got a mixture of GT3s and hypercars that are going to be fighting it out?
Steve, we got a bit of a prediction of the weather forecast for this race, and as you mentioned, it does look to be going to be quite a wet one with some clouds looming in the air. It's going to make it a lot more difficult because the nature of the circuit requires cars to have a lot of downforce and be fast, especially in order to get top end speed down the long straight that is our start-finish straight. So it's going to be a bit of a difficult one. And I think sectors that we will have to be, corners that we have to be cautious of and see where the most action is going to be. Eastern one, as we all know, is a optimal dive bombing place. And also the likes of the middle sector, the flowing corners. A bit of a mistake, they hit the curb wrong, and I believe the drivers will be going into the gravel trap going to be experiencing some heartbreak and losing out on points there. So rain is going to spice up a lot of things. I'm going to be honest, we both know, me and you, that rain is the great equalizer of all drivers, regardless of how good you are.
That's it. And we've also got to take a look over to our grandstands, because I see quite a few people enjoying the local culture here in Japan. And we take a look down to the Stingers pits. They're going and saying, how's it great to be here, supporting some friends to enjoy the racing. The Stingers always coming out in force with a bit of yellow and a little bit of black behind it. And black and yellow song keeps jumping in the head. We've got Antonio Gamble flying around the world, going and joining us all over. Good to have a bit of support for the Griffin Sim Racing team, and Jason as well. Jason Farmer, who is in for that title contention, hoping to get a good one. That being said, to all of you, a massive, massive welcome. Glad to have you here at the beautiful circuit out here in Japan for the out in Oyama for the Fuji International Speedway. We're going to be moving over to our qualifying as the cars will start making their way to the pits. Out of the pits and get up and going. This is going to be an interesting tell, however, because many of the drivers have not actually competed in the rain. Found that out a little bit earlier. I had a chat to quite a few of the different drivers. And I asked, I said, but have you practiced in the rain? Have you done any racing in the rain? The answer was not in this sim. So a lot of even footing coming out. Also, drivers hoping to make a big jump through it all. We've got the likes of Paul Fenter. Had his debut run, didn't last very long, unfortunately, due to mistakes coming on by, was thrown out. But also, a shout out to the likes of LC Jaber. Good evening, glad to have you here. Always exciting to have our fellow enjoyments coming in. And compatriots joining us from across the world. But Cam, your thoughts thus far?
It's going to be a very interesting race, and I might sound like a broken record, but I've raced around the circuits in an endurance event, and it's proved to be quite a tricky one with a lot of ups and downs. Now, this is a shorter format, but now also you mentioned the rain there. It's something new for many of these drivers. They have experience in other sims, but they've now switched from that sim to this, which will make it a lot difficult. I haven't even done any wet weather racing in or just test driving within the sim of LMU. But if I can take anything from my experience in the likes of iRacing, it's going to be a tricky one. Of course, each sim has its own characteristics with how the tires work, how the water gets dissipated around the circuit, how it gets removed from the circuit in that wet weather. We had an earlier race in the season at Le Mans where qualifying was dry, and then all of a sudden the skies opened up and it just started raining down. And that caused a lot of issues for our drivers. I think one comment that most told us as well, most drivers told us as commentators, was the amount of spray that's coming through here. The drivers just get, you see a white wall in front of you, and they struggle to find their brake, which leads to a lot of mistakes, which is iconic, unfortunately. But as you take a look through the field, Jeff Leroux, I'm going to quickly point to him here. Steve, Jeff Leroux, amazing fighting last week, all to go to waste for not having enough fuel. And that is something that we've been speaking of a lot throughout this entire championship. That dastardly darn virtual energy thing that keeps on biting our drivers in the tailpipe.
Well, that's it. Let's remind everyone. It came down to the last race, a do-or-die battle in the Hypercars. Jeff Leroux fighting to hold his position. Came down to 1% left on the battery. Final lap of the race, was looking to hold on to that mighty third place. It was a charge, it was a fight, it was a go. Unfortunately, as he went into the middle of Parabolica, staring at the checkered flag, he was disqualified out of the race. A gut-wrenching blow that he's looking to try and change here tonight for the second last round of the season. But coming across the line, putting in a good lap time of 1:27, it is going to be Sean Lerera in third place, Chris Stills in first place. This Peugeot has been stupidly quick over the course of the season and is showing it once again, 1.5 seconds ahead of Leroux.
Stolz has pulled the wool over all the competitors' eyes. I mean, the Peugeot, it's a car that nobody really expects to perform compared to his real-life competitor. It's not something that many drivers be like, oh, it's going to be fast, but that just shows again, the car might be strong, within real world, but in the sim, it's all up to the driver and the setup they can create. Stolz has proven that with us once again with an amazing lap time that is put up there with only a 7/10 gap between him and the Toyota of Verveers.
Verveers coming out of nowhere and wanting to step it up. Mark van Rensburg down in fourth place, followed by Denny Steenkamp, Sean Lerera, Jacques Slater. But in our GT3 class, it's Nathan Watt at the top of the charts with Bernard Barkhuizen in second place. Paul Venter running down in the mighty third. Darren Miller chasing down in fourth place, followed by Michael van Rooyen, Dennis Gillett, and Theo Gamsami is running in seventh place. But we do have a couple of new drivers on the field as well. One of them is being Johan van der Venter, one of our newer drivers coming in from SimStuff Racing, pulling out yet another Aston Martin. So we're glad to have the Aston Martins in. Michael van Rooyen won't feel too alone at the moment, which is always fantastic to have. Brandon Kruger, however, the lap time that he managed to put on board is a 1:47. He hasn't been able to pick that up. And also a couple of other drivers that haven't been able to put a good time in. Johan Blichnote, Johan Kleinans have not put a time in as well. So we are seeing little fall-offs for some of the drivers that are just hoping to get into the top order for their classes. But it's going to be a big work if Johan Kleinans, who is fighting for that championship in the hypercar class, who hasn't set a time out on the board.
It's gonna be something quite interesting, Stephen. But what I like the most is, as we have spoken just about the GT3s, is Bernard Barker is putting a stamp of his dominance again in that class. But Nathan Watt, a newcomer to this series. I see the facial pulling.
I do want to point out, just a heads up to everybody, so there's no uncertainty.
So a super-powered Porsche.
This is the sim deciding the Ferrari of Johan Kleinans. It didn't want to pull the Ferrari in the sim, so it's showing him in a Porsche 991. Oh gosh, please excuse the sim for being in beta, but my heavens, I think every Ferrari fan has successfully just jumped off a building.
I don't think so, Steve. I think they might be traumatized thinking that Kevin Estre has somehow gotten their hands on a Ferrari engine and slapped it into a Porsche 911. But
991, 911, it's a different car. This is, you got to get it right. Remember, there's a 991, there's a 991.2, there's a 992.1, there's a 992.2, there's a 997, which is actually older than a 991, and a 992. Have I lost you yet?
it's a car that goes vroom and it's a car that goes fast. I like it. But I mean,
I've honestly never seen that ever. Absolutely.
then
I've
you
just
haven't
sent
spent enough
a
time.
report to Studio 396 saying, listen, we just discovered an issue. By the way,
it's kind of funny.
so we're gonna see if it changes for the race. I've been assured that it may change, but however, this is the second ever recorded case thus far. So we're setting history marks here, gentlemen.
Boy, that's so. Just imagine the drivers driving the GT3s during the race if that car has not been substituted correctly, saying, "Wait, why is this Porsche all of a sudden so fast compared to every single other car around me?" Meanwhile, it's just a Porsche with the Ferrari 409P engine strapped into it with the hybrid system.
Okay,
But
so let's go back to what's happening at hand. We've got Crystals at the top of the charts, Kleinans in second, Van Rensburg in third, Verveers in fourth, and fifth place is LaRue. In our GT3 cars, however, the only McLaren is Jason Farmer in the top 5 for our GT3s. Our GT3 class is being dominated by the BMWs continuously, but this Jason Farmer's hoping to break that mold at the moment, running in fourth place. He's got Nathan Watt, who is chasing down in fifth place. Behind them, we've got Jeremiah Valatham, who's dropped out of the top 10 in the points, so he's hoping to score some points to move up. We've got Dian Kopp, who moved up in the points. Dennis Gillett, likes of Miller van Heerva, who's also one of the drivers coming in. Always fantastic, and getting a shot of him in the pits. Ulrich de Jager's hoping to move forward. Govan Sami. So many drivers are wanting to step up. A new driver to the grid also is Philip van Zyl, who now Philip van Zyl has been in and out of sim racing for quite some time, hasn't been the most consistent in the races. This is his debut in LMU, especially here in Raceface.Pro. Last time he raced in Raceface in a full championship capacity was dating back nearly a year and a half ago.
yeah, in the race race capacity, that's quite a while ago. But what I like to see, Stephen, is more McLarens. And I know you hate the McLarens, but it's a beautiful machine, regardless of what. But as you take a look at our GT3, well, GTP or hypercars, Crystal still leading out the way there with quite a massive benchmark of a time, but followed closely by the likes of our Porsche, hypercar, Ferrari, proto test type thingamabob that somehow made their way up here.
Let's just call it a space frame because that's all that is right there. The Ferrari 499 that unfortunately the sim has substituted it for a, just a mock car. This is what happens when it doesn't quite find itself. You get a second personality. But Kleinans, rest assured, is in a Ferrari 499P. We have got it all checked out. The sim will pull itself right in due course. Jean Verveers also been on quite a triumphant run. First sector was good, second sector not so good. Third sector may be an improvement. He puts a 128.72. Not quite the target lap time that he wants to go for. That 127.132 set by Crystals, but the grid is getting closer to one another, and I think the hypercars, we're in for a very, very close race. Much like our Danny Steenkamp, who has also been an improvement throughout the championship, unfortunately not having a great time out there. But our GT3s, with the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, a 140.2, Blichnote, a 140.8, the likes of Brandon Kruger, putting the lap time on the board, it was only able to get a 140.0. Remember, he started on the front row every single race, bar last race, and now.
Yeah, it's quite shocking. When we went through the running orders earlier, I was a bit of surprise, but also a bit of glee. I might be wrong, but to see that other drivers have stepped up and brought the fight to the likes of Brandon Kruger and Bernard Barkhuizen. But these two immediately said, don't discount us just yet. We're going to put in a massive flyer. But also, just quick reminder, the likes of Nathan Watt it's his second ever race with us at Raceface and also in a league, and he is sitting fourth. This young man has gone out fighting and has brought some amazing spectators along with him, taking over our grandstand with Eloise Buitendag saying, "Go Nathan Watt, proud mom." And he's still stuck it out in I believe last weekend at Monza, fighting and doing the entire race without any force feedback.
And on
I
his
believe
birthday.
he brought on his birthday and brought it home in fourth. So I see we have a very bright future star on our hands here, Stephen, and I'm eager to see how he performs and when he does a full season with us at Raceface. He's going to be one to watch, I believe, and one to not just write off just yet, but it's great to see some people bringing the fight and some new names, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, lots and lots of new names joining us, but take a look, half a second between first and second of our GT3s, and third place right in the mix as well. So our GT3 is one of the most competitive classes to be in. Our hypercars a little bit more of a difficult one there. As you see, Johan Bluknoot charging his way around, trying to improve. A couple of other names got to keep an eye out for. Michael van Rooyen. Now, usually sits at the back of the pack. This Aston Martin is not much to be looked at, but has definitely been a car through the entire field, has been the most consistent in terms of finishing. So keep an eye on the 777. I do think it's a very underlying driver that just goes under the radar, just avoids any of the chaos, keeps the nose in, keeps consistent, keeps going. Much like the likes of Thriller Miller. That being said, I see Darren Miller down into 12th position. The Porsche driver has been incredibly quick at Monza. Unfortunately, mistakes occurred. He was out of the race, hoping to make amends here at Fuji for the second last round of the championship. Still, so many points on the line for the top 10 to be fighting it out into the top 5 even for our GT3 and hypercar class. So there's every opportunity to move forward. And that being said, we've got to mention the big factor here. Completing the championship then puts you into the draw for a 16,000 Rand rig sponsored by Simulator Cave. And that is an aluminium profile rig. 16,000 Rand worth that will become yours. So by the end of the year, we got that big draw coming in. The winners, first, second, and third of the championship will get trophies from SBR and Rhino Utility. They're custom made specifically for the championship to put on your shelf, and we'll have season 1. First time we're going and handing out trophies at this point for the LMU. Second time we're handing out trophies here at Raceface. The first time was actually done in iRacing a little bit back. So quite an exciting time coming on to be in the Raceface community, to race in the leagues, and to fight it out for the top running orders.
Absolutely, Stephen. And as you mentioned, it's only our second ever time that Raceface is handing out trophies, and the specific one with the first time happened was in our F4 championship, I believe, season 2. I've got my trophy here somewhere.
F1, it was the F4
yeah.
and the GT3s at the time, season 1 of our GT3s. So
yeah, and it's something to look at. It's a bit of a bragging right that I promise you, I still brag about it to everybody that comes to visit my house. It's definitely something that will spur the drivers on in order to really perform well and try and get as much as possible out of their races. But as we take a look here, Jeff LaRue trying to put another lap. Unfortunately, his first sector not really where he wanted to be, 6/10 down on the personal best lap, well, the best lap of Stoll's. And I'm still shocked, Stephen.
Snap on the Ferrari.
That quick flick. Bit of an unsettled moment there, Stephen. But, I mean, just take a look at the gap between our hypercars again. A 1 second gap from second all the way to first. That's immensely that the French have come to dominate on the Japanese soil, and there's only one Sol Toyota fighting it out with the likes of Fafias in second. Now it's all about talk. Well, the talk has been said now. I mean, me and you both see how much they talk in the paddock around. It's now going to be who can back up those words as our drivers get ready to head to the grid as they get their gridding orders from our race director. Now it's backing the talk and not just walking the walk.
Gotta say, absolutely love our race director just to jump in and give us a sense of what's happening, telling all the teams and drivers to start climbing into the cars, getting everything ready, and we'll be starting to make their way onto the field. But rain starting to come down, very lightly though, but it is going to make life rather interesting. So, that being said, let's take a look at our starting order, because Crystals is going to be lining up with the likes of Jean Verveers in second place, followed by Johan Kleinans out in third and Jeff LaRue in fourth. A little bit further down, Mark van Rensburg and Devard Nell in sixth position. Danny Steenkamp, Sean Larrera and Jacques Slater will round out our hypercar pack. Cameron, take a look at our GT3.
Our GT3s start with Bernard Barkhuizen setting the pace again and putting his stamp of authority on that pack. But close behind him is Brandon Kruger, not to forget about him, followed by Johan Blichnout, another BMW. That locks out our top three, all BMWs. But close behind, Nathan Watt, the shocker of a newcomer, in fourth position, followed by Dennis Gillett in the lone McLaren. Then we have Paul Fenter in the Lexus. Oh, not lone McLaren. Paul Fenter in a Lexus, followed by Jason Farmer in the McLaren there. And then next up, we have Dion Cup, followed by Jermaine Valatham. And the next row behind, Theo Govindasamy and Michael Van Rooyen, not the lone Aston Martin anymore. In 21st position, we've got Darren Miller in the Porsche, followed by Rob van der Heever. And finally, running out is Flip van Sale, Ulrich Jager in an all-McLaren row on that part there. And finally, in row 13, rounding out our GT3s is Johan van der Veer. Now, the cars are rolling. It's wet weather. Who is going to be the master of the elements? Who is going to be the champion after this?
First ever race in LMU here on Raceface.Pro in rainy conditions. And we're about to go green. Crystals and Jean Verveers will tackle turn one in anger and slip and slide. No heated tires here. No waiting for temperatures. These are ice cold conditions. Short formation lap. Lights on. Lights on. We're waiting for the green from race control. This is turning into a nightmare for drivers. Lights coming on as they get ready. And we are racing for round 6 of the Raceface.Pro LMU Championship, and Crystals hugs the inside line as likes of Verveers comes at him at a rate of knots around the outside. Devon Nell gets a jump on LaRue as he takes in third place.
Right into the first corner, but they are not done yet. Verveers has not given up. As a bit of a move there from Stalls in order to discourage any movement inside, but a quick break and then a flick into the left-hand side. Drivers will have to be cautious here. They do, unfortunately, the nature of the corner do force you to run onto the curving, but it will pay you if you mess up. But we have Johan Kleinans really hunting down the exhaust pipes of that Toyota Hypercar, really wanting to get that second place back. But look back, we've got Sean Larrera making moves on the likes of Jeff LaRue. But not far behind, we have the likes of Mark van Rensburg, trying to get the best out of the likes of LaRue, but thinks better, backs out into this tricky chicane, side by side, forcing Larrera wide, and that leads through Mark van Rensburg saying, "Thank you very much, I will take this position from you."
Well, Jacques Slater getting past and having Bernard Barkhuizen in the way. Bernard getting a good run. Paul Fenter trying to make his way through the fight. Darren Miller up into third. Jason Farmer hoping to follow through. Valatham right into the back of him. And take a look. Devald Nell down the order, fishtailing, trying to figure out where he can go. Gets caught up, spins out. Devald Nell in the middle of the circuit, moves off flat out and has to wait for the entire GT3 field to come on by. Dennis Gillett sees him, but it is Theo Govindasamy and Jeremiah Valatham having a go at one another as they go nose to tail down the straight. It is a monster fight, and unfortunately that is one of our Ferraris that's gone off. That's Dion Cup. That looks like, is that Dion Cup? No, that would have been Rob van der Heever.
No, the other Ferrari there, but look who's going slow there. There is carnage for our GT3s. Crabbing around is the likes of Nathan Watt. I did see an early yellow flag at the start, but I didn't look too far back. It looked like our hypercars got away clean with some being spun around, but that looked to be terminal damage on the steering rack of Nathan Watt's BMW. That car is going to be difficult as he bumps into the back of another Ferrari GT3 going into the pits to get repairs done.
That's Rob van der Heever, unfortunately. But that being said, it is a whole whack of cars in the pits. But one car that is out before the start of the race. Dennis Steenkamp is out of the race. Has been disqualified for being out of position. Kleinans battling to keep the rear in check. Has got LaRue. But where on earth is Chris Stolz? Chris Stolz is down the order. He is sitting 7th of the Hypercars, but 16th overall as yellow flags are being shown. And there is Kleinans running out of room. He gets a drive. He's found his Ferrari 499P and unfortunately hasn't found the grip. Lorero definitely found no grip on the outside and spins out trying to hold it in 3rd. And we have got Fears out of this race as well. Fears has become a retirement.
I wonder, Stephen, if the drivers had the wrong tires on and then, well, maybe misjudged the conditions with the likes of going into the pits. We do know that our GT3s have got involved in accidents and have gone in to get it fixed, with some GTPs or hypercars also being involved in that, but not enough to really warrant going to the pits and getting fixed. But the likes of Chris Stolz, he was way ahead, leading the pack, and has gone, I can only assume, into the pits in order to change something. Because the amount of spray that's being kicked up at this point in time by our drivers is a lot more than what we saw at the start. That's a proper rooster tail popping out from behind these hypercars, and anybody behind them will be struggling to see. So I do think that some of our hypercars made the mistake and put on the wrong tires, leading to this. But the big shocker is the likes of the number 8 Toyota. It was second on the grid and has now been retired. What happened with that Toyota? Is it mimicking real life issues that the real world issues that it had now, or is it just being problematic? But that leaves the likes of the lone Toyota.
Paul Fenter just lost the rear of the car. He came to a stop on the outside of the circuit. He was leading our GT3 pack. That means we've got a new leader of the GT3s as Devotnell going and eking his way by. Darren Miller leads the GT3 field, and for second place, it's Jeremiah Velatham and Dennis Gillett that are on top of one another. To talk about the big thing that's happened for our hypercar and GT3 class in this 40-minute race, our championship leaders of both classes are currently at the back of both classes. And Chris Stolz just went and lost the rear of his car we just saw in the shot. Dennis Gillett still all over the back of Velatham, and Theo Sami just trying to keep it all together. Drivers are battling out in these conditions. Chris Stolz has got Kleinans, his own teammate, on the back of him. Mark van Rensburg's further back, but they are fighting with the car so much. They're amongst the GT3s. They're managing to get past one of the Ferraris that has gone and spun out, and that, unfortunately, looked like it may have been Rob van der Heever yet again going and losing the rear of the car.
Unfortunately, it looks like these conditions are being tricky, and Mount Fuji has not been nice to our drivers, bringing down its full wrath of wet weather madness going out there, Stephen. And I mean, it's a shocker. Both leaders or both our classes, Barkhuizen and Stolz, are both dropping down the order. Now Stolz having the mighty task ahead of him of getting past these GT3s. But I still have the question: what went wrong with their starts? Did they have the wrong tires? Did something not feel right with the car? But these GT3s are battling also in order to keep it on circuit, as we see another McLaren there running wide, but hard on the braking into a very tricky overtaking corner. But Chris Stolz sticks it back up into 8th. Now he has to hunt down the gap to the likes of LaRue and Slater and Null, but between him is the top 3 GT3s. He has a lot of work ahead of him, Stephen, and it's not going to be an easy task.
It's going to be a monumental one. At the moment, Darren Miller in 5th place, leading out the GT3s, and is 5th on overall. He's not just 5th in class, he's winning his class, and he's got Dennis Gillett, and you can see the brakes getting warmed up on the rears as they trying to wind the brake bias back to try get any bit of heat. And Chris Stolz and the likes of his own teammate Kleinans nearly having a go at one of the Aston Martins. The rear snaps off, and that unfortunately is damaged. Chris Stolz has lost the car. He's trying to move out of the way of the circuit. You've got to hold on the brakes, dear sir. You've got to hold on the brakes, as we do see the rear stepping out for, unfortunately, one of our Aston Martins going and losing it. It has gone mad, and I've got a funny feeling none of these drivers are used to these rain conditions. They're not used to having the cold tires on, plus the rain conditions. This is the first full race that they got to have in these conditions. They've had a little bit of practice, but now we're starting to see the big picture here. We, however, got big news. Nathan Watt, one of our retirements as well. So unfortunately, Hillary's is going to be going and giving Nathan a big hug, because Nathan Watt is officially out of round 6 of our championship.
Unfortunately, we do not know what's going on in the background there. It might have been a terminal damage to the car or just undrivable conditions. Drivers will be talking to their teams and be making a much better informed decision about the track conditions out there. As we can see puddles there, but the drivers do seem to be loving hitting those curbs. Even I've seen quite a few of them spinning out because they hit the curbs, and which sends them around. But the shocker is, Steven, our championship leader in our GTP or Hypercars is having the race he wants to forget. And we spoke about it earlier, the drop rounds that these drivers are given. You can have one drop round, and I'm pretty sure that the likes of Chris Stolz would have rather used that drop round when it came to his Lamar race, where unfortunately he had a disconnect and a car was towed to pits. Finished it, but was it the only race he hasn't won yet. But I think at this point he would much rather use that drop round for this race, as this has gone from bad to worse for him, and it will be one that he wants to forget with that damage that happened on it. I mean, we all know no downforce on these cars and you will be struggling in order to make it turns. But let's take a look at our GT3 battle between the two Inception Racing McLarens of Dennis Gillett and Ulrich de Jager. That gap has gone down very little, but now it's gone and grown up again as Ulrich de Jager is trying to close that gap down. But it looks like Dennis Gillett is just having the much better upper hand regarding this sector, sector 3, and into the run-up onto the main racing line. The issue now is, Steven, is making sure the car doesn't lock up going into the massive braking point that is turn 1. It's going to be a bit tricky, but these drivers hopefully might have practiced a bit, as they have had some opportunities earlier during the course of this week to get really to grips with how the car is going to handle. But taking a look back into one of our closest battle is Theo Govindasamy with a McLaren on Lexus battle. It's the British versus the Japanese. It's going to be a heartbreaking, but Paul Fenter really putting up the fight, as we see Chris Stolz exiting the pits there again. But this lonesome Lexus seems to be a boat within this conditions. Paul really finding his feet within them and keeping the car. Yes, made some few mistakes there, but really making some good progress back and hoping to get onto the podium in his second race at Raceface.Pro's LMU Championship.
Not going to be his first time going to be fighting about crystals. However, has to try and climb the field. He is 19th overall and is actually a lap behind a lot of the GT3 class. So it's a long, long slog on the way back. We are getting reports, however, Nathan is not a happy camper, obviously, for a reason. We'll try and see if we can get Nathan to come to the commentary box, give us a little bit of feedback of what actually happened out there, and also chat to the young man about what has been happening out on the circuit for his second ever league race in very, very treacherous conditions. So a call out to Nathan. When you got a little bit of time, head over to the Discord, head up to our commentary booth. We'd love to have a chat to you as the race continues. Puddles forming, and 28 minutes is going to feel like an hour out in these conditions. Mark van Rensburg going a little bit squirrely, trying to get as much traction as possible, and that Toyota just finding the curb, finding the puddle, and send flying.
I think that is the point where Mark van Rensburg wished that the four-wheel drive after Toyota was a lot better and turned it into a 4x4 to be able to master these conditions. That was a nasty moment of snap oversteer on that Toyota, which sent him into the barrier. But take a look again at these two McLarens fighting. Dennis Gillett on Theo Govindasamy. Who is going to be the best on the brakes? Who's going to be the bravest on the brakes in this condition? Side by side, hard on the anchors. Is it going to be the car on the inside that has the better traction? It looks to be covered off quite well. Theo has made the move, but contact side by side. Dennis Gillett Theo Govindasamy tried to cover, and unfortunately lost the rear and hit the left rear quarter panel of Dennis Gillett, definitely giving some suspension damage to the car.
Yeah, and unfortunately parking off into the weeds as well. Going to be dropping him out of the running. Ulrich de Jager is going to be quite happy about that. He jumps up to 6th in the GT3 class. So much has gone on. So many battles have gone and transpired at the moment. As we take a look, Darren Miller still leads out the field, only a second ahead of Jeremiah Valatham, who has been on a climb. I've got to say, Darren Miller unfortunately loses it. The 991. Oh, and he parks it perfectly in between the barriers. I gotta say, well done.
I mean, the Japanese government will be quite happy with how you parked that car there, Darren, but unfortunately this is not a driver's test, and yeah, you won't be scored upon that. But heartbreak, as well, I was just about to say that PWSR is putting up a great show with that performance from Darren Miller, as that drops him all the way from first out of the top 5, but that makes everybody else happy. Steven, tonight's race is all about survival, it seems, keeping it gentle on the throttle, not hitting puddles, and keeping it out of the wall at this point in time.
Oh, this is going to be challenging, as Sean Loureiro just found out, lost the rear of the car, and he is waiting. Jacques Slater is going to be chomping at the bit as he sees a Porsche strucken out there. The Penske Porsche now looks to try and make up some time. Late on the anchors, a little bit too much, as Sean Loureiro takes the escape road to try and get himself going safely back on the circuit, but Jacques Slater is going to be all over the back of him, hunting for that 3rd position in the hypercar class.
And now the question is Sean favoring the bit of a hot tires now more since that the spin that he had? But we'll see. But Jacques Slater has his target, his factory Porsche versus the privateer Porsche, who will have the upper hand. But Jacques Slater will have to play smart. That spray is not going to be his favor, especially within. It's just going to be a white wall pretty much. So he has to be cautious when making his move, but really has to close down the gap. That gap has gone all the way from about 8 seconds to 2 seconds. Meaning that the biggest winner out of this is the likes of Jacques Slater. But now Sean Loureiro will be working on making the moves count and getting that gap a bit bigger as Jacques Slater makes a move on the inside of the McLaren. Bit of a gutsy one. Patience needs to be exercised here to an extreme caution, Steve.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a frightening one. Everyone holding a breath. We are getting reports, however, that we've got yet another retirement in our GT3 class this time around. So 2 are currently out of the hypercars. That is contact. Kleinhans and Slater. Kleinhans into the back of Slater at a rate of knots there, and I think may have damaged the rear of that car. The Porsche, very unstable. Kleinhans went late on the anchors and went right into the back, but we are getting reports, however, another little bit of contact coming in, as Kleinhans is just on a hot charge to try and get past. Does get the pass done and dusted, not very neat. Gotta get back to it though, because I have to. Darren Miller out of the race. Their car's to terminal. They decide to park it. Unfortunately, Thriller Miller out of the race yet again.
Question is, what went wrong with that Porsche? It seems to have been leading the way for quite some time and then just had a snap. Was that just the drive shaft? Well, not drive shaft, just a steering rack saying goodbye, thank you very much. Or was the wheel just being problematic? You never know. Can be just a sim issue or hardware failure. But take a look again at 4th and 5th in class. McLaren on McLaren violence. It's like we're seeing Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri fighting it out, except there is no papaya rules between these two. They are giving it all. There is no team orders. Sorry, Zach Brown, these two are going to go fighting. The likes of Ulrich Jochert really hunting down the likes of Dennis Gillett, but Dennis Gillett getting the upper hand. But take a look at our lead battle between Jermaine Vlatham and Dion Cup. This is a McLaren versus Ferrari, our longest standing Ferrari driver, trying to get that first inaugural victory that he's ever had. But where the likes is Bernard Barkhuizen and Brandon Kruger, they have fallen quite down. I would love to know what happened with that battle there, but that's something that we can find out later on in the race and maybe even report back on next week in our final round. But as we take a look again here, Dion Cup getting close hard on the brakes, closing down the gap, unfortunately losing out the drive, which gives Jermaine Valatham the better exit speed. That move would have worked in the dry, but this ain't dry. This is wet weather racing, and it's really, really cautious. But great exit from the likes of Dion Cup, getting into that slipstream, just seeing a wall of white for him. And now the top end speed of the McLaren really showing its power here. pulling that gap, almost a 2-second gap already on the likes of the Cup from 0.3 to 0.5, and pulling more and more. The McLaren is a monster in a straight line speed, almost fast enough to almost compete with the likes of his hypercar, but not entirely. So now hard of the brakes again in the spray of our leading. Wait, no, leading Porsche, of one of the hypercars.
That is our leading hypercar, Jeff LaRue, who is running 15 seconds ahead of Nell. They fought it out at Monza, and now having to carve their way through. LaRue has definitely figured out the car. Loureiro trying to keep ahead of Johan Kleinund. Slater a little bit further down. Mark van Rensburg will be rounding out in 6th place, trying to chase down Slater, who possibly has a bit of damage to his car. Veltham is currently, Joe Miner's up into 1st place, Dian Cup in 2nd of our GT3s, and still Chris Stolz is down in 16th position, having to fight through the GT3 field. And considering every time he's getting by them, he is actually a blue flag. So he has to make the pass work and be cautious about it. I mean, this is just a serious race. And once again, taking the championship throne on its head. I want to point out, Chris Stolz was only 5 points ahead of Kleinunds. Now he is going to be miles behind. Kleinunds has an opportunity to gain a lot. For Chris Stolz, he's going to hope for Kleinunds to run into an issue.
Yeah, he's basically going to be praying to the Motorhead gods there, saying, please let something break on that Ferrari, give me the upper hand, and let's see what's going to happen there. But we have Rob van der Heever in the pits again. I think that car is getting some work done, or is just waiting for the final few minutes in order to get the car across the line. But taking a look at our battle for 5th and 6th, it's Porsche on Toyota, but the Toyota seems to have had the much better exit there on the likes of Jock Slater. Jock Slater going backwards very, very fast, already from 4th all the way down into 6th. That Porsche does not seem to be very happy, but now it's also a question, is that Porsche carrying some damage? But the likes of Van Rensburg trying to keep the land of the rising sun very proud and very flying high with that Toyota in order to get close to that top 4 positions and hopefully onto the podium.
It's going to be hunting down at a rate of knots. Unfortunately, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 non-finishers in this 25-car starter. 1 disqualification, others with damage. Sean Loureiro trying everything he can to stay up ahead. But you've also got some chasing down cars, the likes of Nell, hoping to close the gap down from 15 seconds. He's got it down to 14, but serious amount of traffic to contend with, and the white wall of that rooster tail. They've got to be so careful. Little bit of contact, just a bit of a love kiss there. We're not quite in France anymore. We're out in Japan. You've got to respect the rules. You have to be rather cautious on that one. But he did, however, influence the leader, Jeremiah Valatham, unfortunately loses drive, and Cup once again on the back of him with that Ferrari 296.
Now it's again having to use the power of that McLaren in order to pull a gap out of him out of the final corner. But now Dian Cup is quite close. Good on the brakes in the Ferrari in this wet weather racing. But now here comes the power again of the McLaren. No matter what, that McLaren has got the legs in the Ferrari. The Ferrari good in endurance racing, but the McLaren just seems to be performing a lot better. But now trying to get into the slipstream, but also getting hit with that white spray. It's got to be difficult to see a flash of a yellow flag from one of our drivers. Sean Loureiro, I think, might have had an accident as he's losing a gap to the likes of Kleinunds. We've got a Ferrari 1, 2, and 3. Oh boy, I think he might have a bit of an accident there, but now the Ferrari is trying to pull the gap again on Sean Loureiro. All of this is favoring in the meantime for our top 2 runners as well as our 5th place runner trying to get the best out of this situation.
Loureiro trying to look for the outside. Kleinund's having a little bit of straight line, but they are going to run into the back of Dennis Gillett and Paul Fenter, who are also fighting out. Loureiro gets sideways, trying to bring the car back, as we do see Paul Fenter stuck in the middle. He's trying to get round Dennis Gillett, and Dennis getting the upper hand on him. Will carry on the drive. I mean, this is just a monumental run. Paul Fenter going to be happy about it. Loureiro around the outside, stuck over the curbs, gets it a little bit worrisome, does stop for the apex. Dennis Gillett gets held up, and now Paul Fenter has an opportunity to come back fighting this time around the Lexus, hoping to utilize the power to carry on moving forward up the order. But it is turning into a race all over the show for our GT3s. Our top 4 are all in their own battles. The likes of Jeremiah, Dion Cup, Dennis Gillett, and Paul Fenter are all on top of their chosen order in 2-pack battles. So that's going to be one to keep an eye out for. Chris Stills is up into 13th position, trying to make his way through the field. And for a couple of drivers that have just joined the series, Jan VDV on his debut out is currently sitting in 20th. Philip van Zyl is in 19th. Michael van Rooyen down in 18th position. Jason Farmer in the top 10. Brandon Kruger behind Johan Blichnout as he's 9th and 8th respectively. So it's going to be still a monumental climb for a lot of these top runners.
The question is, Stephen, how much damage are these cars going to be running? I'm just looking at the gap between Loureiro and Kleinans again. That gap is going all this more bigger and bigger there. But we also have a fight here between Jeff Leroux and Dewald Nell. Yes, a 40-second gap, but that gap is also coming down little by little each lap. There's 16 minutes left. Will it be enough? We do not know. But I think this battle, this entire race has turned into a race of survival and nutrition. Who will be able to master these conditions and who's going to see it to the very end? We've already have, as you mentioned, 5 retirements all around. It's not the conditions that favor any of the drivers, but it also mentioned earlier, we also mentioned it, that rain is the greatest equalizer when it comes to motorsport. It's wise words spoken by Senna, and it's wise words that have been applied again tonight.
Well, one thing to keep an eye out for, first and second in the hypercars, the likes of Leroux and Nell. Remember, Nell is 3rd in the championship on 87 points. Leroux is on 61 points, and he's lying 4th in the championship. But Kleinans, who's currently 3rd on track, is running 2nd in the class on 96 points, 5 points behind likes of Chris Stills. This is going to completely take Chris Stills out of the race. Kleinans will inherit first. But the question is, Devon Nell has an opportunity to move up into 2nd place.
Now it's all about just keeping it on track. Yes, he would want to win this race, but it's also about just keeping it on track. As we see the likes of Dion Cup and Jeremiah Verlatham, there was a switch for the lead of our GT3 class at one point, as the likes of the Ferrari has gotten the legs on the McLaren. Might have run wide there as Jeremiah Verlatham, and that has led through the Ferrari, and that Ferrari is not taking any prisoners, really trying to open up. But do not discount that McLaren coming back at full throttle, full gas. Be careful of brake, covers off the inside, goes to the Cup and moves back over for braking, which is perfectly legal. But now, the brakes glowing on these cars as they hit the anchors hard, and that gap has grown up again. It looks like the Ferrari has just gotten the legs on the McLaren within these twisty, windy bits, but on the straight, it is advantage McLaren is going to be used to his advantage. Not further back, we have our 4th place of Sean Loureiro trying to move through these two, fighting for the overall GT3 victory. But Stephen, do not look too far back. Look who's finally back in our GT3 class, the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen. That gap between him and Paul Fenter has gone from 5 seconds to 2 seconds over the course of about 2 laps. Barkhuizen is trying to make amends with the mistakes he has made at the beginning of the race and going for a podium finish still in this race.
Now, Barkhuizen's going to be working hard, however, but a fighting duo, Theo Gavansami, in another brawl, this time with Johan Blichnout, who has usually been at the top of the order, this time down in 8th position, and Gavansami giving him a really, really tough go at the moment as they battle each other into the hairpin. And Blichnout, a little bit of rear contact there, trying to slow the car down. Aquaplaying on the way through, not getting too comfortable. We'll have to be well aware of the situation and what they need to do to keep the fight going.
Absolutely, Stephen. What scares me is the use of curbs these drivers are taking. I'm normally so scared of hitting any form of curbing in these wet weather conditions, as one little slip up and you go into the tire barrier. But a brave move there from our GTP car, going around the outside in one of the corners where the GT3s like to understeer. But inside goes the likes of Jan Blichnout, licking the stamp and sending it. Bit of rubbing there, but has made the move stick as we have a yellow flag for the car that's in the chicane. That looks to be Flip van Zyl getting lapped by one cars in his class.
That's not Philip van Zyl. Philip's actually in a Aston Martin. So apologies once again for those that are getting a little bit caught out with the liveries. That's purely because Custom Liveries is caught behind a paywall at the moment. As Theo Gavansami late on the brakes, Blicknote gets a beautiful switchback, and Gavansami's got the drive on the exit. These two, I've got to say, been pointing out, great to see. But yes, unfortunately, Custom Liveries a little bit of a hiccup here in LMU. May have a plan in the future. I've got an idea, but we'll see how that works out. However, Theo Gavansami gets the drive on the inside. Blicknote, left foot dead, switches back to the inside. BMW has the best brakes, ran out a little bit too wide. Gavansami comes back at him. Blicknote couldn't quite keep the drive. Gavansami has the drive on him, gets past. Blicknote try to come back. He switches to the inside. Gonna go for the hairpin, however. Late on the anchors, couldn't quite bring it back. But this is an absolute brawl. This is amazing.
Absolutely amazing battle, as you mentioned, Steve. Who is the best on the brakes? Who has gotten the guts to go onto the wet stuff and maybe make a move that sticks? But will we see another replay of a previous lap attempt, the overtake attempt that Johan did, and stick as they go into the little chicane? It's a long, flat-out right-hander. Gavansami covering that inside line, but Johan Blicknote looking for his move. Lining it up. Is he going to say it? Nope. Gets forced onto the outside. Going to try and make the move along the long way around. Still there. Holds it. Has it. Contact. Who is going to make it? And it is Gavansami losing out with Blicknote. But here comes the likes of a GTP hypercar coming through. This is going to throw a spanner in the works. Who is going to be the best? That is played perfectly into the hands of Blicknote, who has a gap between him now and Gavansami. But that is Devolt now throwing the span in the works there, and also giving a bit of a slipstream now to the likes of Johan Blicknote. But now it's the long pull onto the front straight, and we all know that McLaren has gotten the legs on any other of our cars with its low profile to the ground. Is going to be who's going to be the best. Just look at that gap going down and down and down. This is going to be one, but it's too far back in order to make a move here. But taking a look, Paul Fenter has lost position to the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, and it's really 7 seconds back to the likes of Barkhuizen. Barkhuizen is on a charge, hunting down third place, already a second behind the likes of Dennis Gillett. This is a battle that is going to be phenomenal if he's able to stick it, but we're looking at this battle still between 7th and 8th. Gavansami not throwing the towel just yet, hoping to make a move stick into the chicane or when opportunity presents itself, but Johan Blicknote making that big BMW even bigger.
Well, also Rooster Tails starting to get a bit smaller out there, Cameron, and drivers trying to hunt for the wet patches. We did see a little bit of rapid movement coming in from the cars. Something you can't quite do is snake too many times. It is going and considered too many movements and can land you up in a bit of trouble with the stewards. But that being said, I think a lot of these drivers are just fishing for puddles at the moment, as we got 9 minutes and 49 seconds left of this race. The wet tires are reaching their end, and drivers are having to figure out what's going to be the best opportunity to keep going and keep life in these tires as they start rapidly heating up.
Stephen, I mean, me and you have spoken before. You can drive wet with the tires until they're slicks, but it's also being cautious because there isn't properly a dry line forming just yet. And it will be tricky if you do go into the slick tires and you put a wheel off into the wet stuff, that you go into the tire barrier once again. But as we see the likes, Shaw Loureiro not having the time of his life, going into that little chicane there as he loses yet another position to the likes of Mark van Rensburg. He's been going off there a lot as the Porsche of Shaw Loureiro. I think he's just having a bit of a difficult time there, but the story, the talk of the race for me really is the likes of Mark van Rensburg, the lone surviving Toyota, still fighting it. He is a bit back now, but now he needs to keep it going because fourth will still be quite a significant amount of points towards his championship standings.
Well, I'm getting a bit of reports. Crystals is up into 6th position. He's a lap down on all the hypercars and is not improving his lap times to be able to chase it. I think that he's gone and cooked the tires a little bit more. Dennis Gillett, seeing that he has Bernard Barkhuizen trying to chase him down. Barkhuizen trying to get into that top 3 and score a few points to get over on Kruger, is now stuck with a hypercar in the middle of them. And that is our leader, Jeff LaRue, who has been on an almighty charge, but from a 15-second gap, is now gone down to 10 seconds and going further down as Nell is starting to pick up the pace. Now that the conditions are becoming a little bit more favorable.
And now it's all about who has gotten the best setup in terms of this transitioning period and how quickly the track will be drying out. But taking a look again, Dennis Gillett has got a BMW right under its wing with the form of Bernard Barkhuizen, and it's going to be, we do know that the legs on the McLaren is quite strong, but we also know that Bernard Barkhuizen is able to extract a lot more pace out of a BMW as he goes side by side. Who is going to be best on the brakes side by side again into turn one? Bernard Barkhuizen showcasing his strength and prowess as he takes that inside line into turn one and takes that third position away from the likes of Dennis Gillett. Oh, Stephen, you can say what you want. This is one I have to give to you. The BMW is a bit better than the McLaren.
They both got shocking looks, I've got to say. Not my favorite of the looks, but both having some great performance out of them. Bernard Barkhuizen's been playing it a little bit on the back foot since the start of the race, and I think that has cost him a little bit of time here. Dennis Gillett has been in and out of fights, but has preserved the tyres a little bit more. So if he can stay on the back of Barkhuizen, he might have an opportunity to go for the pass. As we do see Nell hunting down the left on the inside, does force the likes of Dennis Gillett to go wide. That killed off the drive, and unfortunately Dennis Gillett will be on the back foot.
Fortunately, not the place where Dennis Gillett would have wanted a hypercar to come through. This track is not forgiving and presenting a lot of overtaking opportunities for our faster class cars. But it is going to be now that Bernard Barkhuizen is also going to be tricked up now with the likes of that hypercar. So it might come back and swing into the favor of Dennis Gillett, but it doesn't look like it, as it seems to be wrapped up in a nice little bow and centered there. But Stephen, now the talk of a town is still the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen. The fight that he has been brought back all the way from where he was. This is somebody who started on the second row of in third place of our GT3s and is fighting back into third place after a very mysterious stop by many of our front runners, which is still something that I'm trying to wrap my brain around, and has probably given the likes of the Prancing Horse a victory in both hypercar and GT3 cars.
I've got a funny feeling it was either the cold tyres and with a little bit of a spin that caught them, or, heaven shudder the thought, possibly drivers getting onto the wrong setup. And that also would go back to the pits. Drivers not quite having those wet tyres, had to start on the dries and then get themselves going. Dion Cup is leading out the GT3s, now sees the likes of LaRue getting past him. The two Prancing Horses are looking to take the win here. But for the first time this entire season, we are going to have non-championship runners actually fighting in the top two. Into the top two of both classes. Barkhuizen is lying in third, and Kleinans is lying in third. Both LaRue and Nell haven't been fighting out for those podiums, and Cup hasn't been at the podium, so has Valatham. This has been the best result for Jeremiah all season long, and he's going to be quite happy to see it through to the end.
Absolutely, I think he tried to fight it for that victory. I mean, every driver wants to go and get that first inaugural win for themselves within a championship, but it looks like Dion Cup has just proven that the Ferrari, he has a much better setup with the likes of the rain and dries, because we did misspeak earlier. The race started for me to be almost a combination between wet and dry with no rain falling, and then after lap one, it's like the clouds just opened and it was just rain.
Another retirement out of the race. Theo Gavansamy is out of the race. So that leaves 19 cars circulating. Johan van der Vente running in 19th, along with Philip van Zyl up into 18th. So the running order as stands with 3 minutes and 40 seconds left on the board. It's Jeffrey LaRue out in first place of the hypercars, followed by Del Nell. Johan Kleinans running in third place. Mark van Rensburg in fourth. Sean Lerero in fifth place, with Chris Stills up into sixth. And Jacques Slater, oh, that's a tyre off on the car.
That's a clipping. Okay, in all honesty, those barriers are made of something other than plastic, Stephen, because during my test runs, I smacked them and I smacked them hard. That's a car without a wheel, and that's going to drop him far down than what to think. But this will mean that the likes of Chris Stills will be smiling. it's another position I believe that is going to be gaining for this, which helps his stuff. But that car, I believe, is done. It's dead. It's donezo. It's completely busted. And just as I was about to say that there is a dry line forming, this race gives me serious trauma flashbacks to Le Mans 2 years ago, where it just went from dry to absolute monsoon. And we do know that Japan loves monsoon weather.
Well, Dejan Karp is currently leading our GT3, followed by Jeremiah Veletham, Bernard Barkhuizen, and Dennis Gillett. Jacques Slater stopped on the circuit, just doing everything he can to try and get this car restarted. Paul Venter is up into 5th with Ulrich de Jager, Johan Blicknote, Brandon Kruger, Jason Farmer, Michael van Rooyen, Philip van Zyl, Johan VDV, Theo Gavansami is our first of our retirements, but Jacques Slater has not retired the car. He's sitting and waiting, possibly to get this car moving, but unfortunately, in the last 3 minutes of the race, he managed to break the rear stub axle on that Penske Porsche and is out of the race. I can't imagine what's going through the helmet there.
I mean, what could have gone wrong? It's just the rear stepping out and unfortunately getting too early on the throttle. We do not know, but from what I can see, that car is seeming to be trying to cycle power or just on a pit limit there. I don't see him there anymore. I believe he has returned to the pits, requesting a tow, hopefully to get the car back out before the end of the race, but unfortunately with 1 minute 15 remaining.
He's out.
There's
3 minutes left.
Porsche.
We lost one of our hypercars, Jacques Slater, out of the race due to terminal damage. A snap stub axle on the rear, gone and done it. Leader of the race, however, 8 seconds up the road. LaRue is going to be looking for the checkered flag. The tires are begging for mercy. Timer counting down, waiting for our race control to come on the mic and say leader is done. LaRue is hoping to get this car across the line in first place to take his first ever win in the championship. LaRue has been fighting it out. Round 1 was in 5th place. Round 2 in 4th. 3rd in round 3. 5th in round 4. 7th in round 5. Due to a unfortunate not able to finish it at Monza through Parabolica. This will be the ultimate redemption race a week later, fighting it out. LaRue gonna be hoping to get it through to the end, hanging on by everything he's got. Energy has worked out in his favor. He's 29 over Nell's 6. He has really saved as much as he could to get it to the line, not to have any problems. But LaRue is going to be smiling as he makes his way to the start-finish line. And Jeff LaRue will be coming across. And our checkered flag is, well, not out as yet. LaRue comes across. Yes, it was the checkered flag. LaRue getting the checkered flag on the win. With the ultimate blow at Monza, he brings it back. Here at Fuji's, Devon Nell takes 2nd. Johan Kleinans fights it out, brought himself back into 3rd place, and officially puts himself leading the championship. Johan Kleinans leads the championship ahead of Chris Stolz by a country mile as he comes across the line.
It is absolute glee for the Italian brand in both winning the GT3 and the Hypercars car, with the likes of Dianel going and grabbing that GT3 victory, and following close behind is Jermaine Valatham. Absolutely glee, I'm sure, underneath that helmet for getting his first ever podium. And shock of a story, 3rd place, Bernard Barkhuizen fighting all the way from the back and gets the final step on the podium for our GT3 class. Absolutely phenomenal racing from the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, and that is just the start as we take a look at the rest of the drivers coming through across the line. With, Stephen, leaky little shocker. The surviving Toyota getting fourth, missing out on that podium with the likes of Mark Rensburg in fourth in class for our hyperclass. But then Dennis Gillett, nothing to shake your head about. Great drive from you there. And then Paul Fenter weaving across the line, the lonesome Lexus in his second race in LMU, getting fifth in class after a phenomenal battle. And then finally, Ulrich de Jager giving us a phenomenal bit of entertainment earlier in this race of the evening, coming across sixth in our class, with Jan Blichnet taking a seventh position.
Well, that being said, we've officially got a change of GT3 in terms of our championship. The likes of Bernard Barkhuizen is now leading the championship ahead of Kruger. This has been a change of note and brings us to our final round. Will be a straight shootout between our top three in both classes for the win. Folks, it is just gone off the rails. We got to see some incredible racing here tonight, and what a stellar affair. We're going to head back to the commentary box. I've got to say, Cam, exciting of note to see the order of racing, how things have turned out from sunshine qualifying to the first ever rain we got to experience here in LMU, a complete turn of events where our top runners have landed at the back of the field and now lost out the championship. New drivers taking the podium. I mean, this is just wild. We're going to have new voices coming and chatting to us tonight, which is a massive, massive first. Honestly, this would be, if I had to say, I have waited 5 seasons in entire sim racing to have one new voice coming in, joining us here in the commentary booth. And we're going to see not just one, we're going to see 4 new voices joining in the commentary booth to come and have a chat to us. I mean, that, to me, is personally exciting.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal, Stephen. And the biggest question I'm probably going to ask for every single one of the drivers, what went wrong, especially our lead runners with the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, who is currently being flagged down by our media team. Listen, what is going on? What happened in that start? Give us what went wrong and what caused you to drop all the way down, because that's something that I need to get into my brain in order to understand what happened, because I do not know what's happened there. It's actually something that's, I need to know what happened.
Well, that being said, let's bring him in, the man, the myth, the legend, and the one that's confused a lot, Bernard Barkhuizen, our now championship leader in third place. Over to you, Cam.
How's it?
Welcome, Bernard, and please put me out of my misery. What was the start strategy? I mean, you were leading the race, and then, or part of that front pack, and then next moment we see you in the pits. What happened? Setup issue, tire issue? We need to know.
I was totally confused. I look, the skies were open. It was drizzling. I don't know where the rain is coming from, but it was drizzling, you know. And I was like, what are the chances that it's going to actually rain? And I just took the gamble and went for the tries.
Wow. So I think that's something that caught out most of our drivers, Stephen, as well as our GTP leader in the likes of Chris Stolz, as he dropped all the way down from the lead into who knows where. But this driver that recovered the most, I would say, from everybody who made that mistake is Bernard Barkhuizen, with coming all the way from the back and getting a phenomenal third place. How do you do that? No, I'm not even able to do that. How?
I don't know, dude. I think it was the third lap, and then I spun on like the second last corner on the dries, and I was just like, okay, this is not gonna work. Just went for the wets, and I just pushed. I was flipping sweating. It was not the rain. It was physical sweat.
Just sticking it out there. But Stephen actually mentioned something earlier. We have seen a switch with the likes of our championship leaders now, with you taking over the lead from Brandon Kruger. And this leads us into a straight shootout, all guns blazing fight at the likes of our final lap in the beautiful country of Portugal at Portimao.
Yes, I do not know that track, but I knew I needed to do the best here. Dion Cup did a very good job. He had amazing pace. He was taking fastest lap by lap, and I was beating him, and then he was beating me. But on the last lap, I took it by 10th, so at least that's another point.
Well, all points help in this championship as you have taken the lead. But I'm going to hand you over to my co-commentator and also one that got very much excited during this race, Steven Koenig. Take it away, good sir.
Well, Bernard Barkhuizen, once again, congratulations, and now stepping up to the plate to win the championship. What's the game plan? What's running through your mind? What's the considerations? I know you are now battling your teammate for the championship. Is there any concern between one another of, well, I'm going to beat you and possibly might lose out the running order here?
No, I don't think. I'm not planning on losing, you know. So it was just unfortunate in Bahrain. I had a PC crash. I joined again. I finished 12th, and that's unfortunately the setback that put me far behind. So, but yeah, I'm putting everything in there just to, you know, take that gold medal.
It's going to be the first of the gold medals here in our GT3s. Well, before I let you go to enjoy the celebration after such a phenomenal run out there, anything you want to say to all the admins, to our sponsors here at Raceface.Pro, to the drivers of the teams, to your sponsors, and also, most importantly, I think you agree with me, the absolute amazing petrol heads here at Fuji.
Yeah, no, all I can say is just thanks for everyone for watching, you know, and supporting Raceface and everyone a part of the admin team. And definitely stay tuned. I think the last round is going to be very tough. I don't know what the point difference is, but I suspect Brandon will put in some practice hours, and it's going to be very close.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Bernard Barkhuizen, congratulations on a stellar drive and enjoy the celebrations. And go and dry off. I think you need it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Well, that's been a rather exciting one. But that being said, however, we've got to go and bring in our race winner of our GT3s. Cameron, I'm going to leave this up to you because, well, it ain't no McLaren. It's a Ferrari that outdid you.
Throw in my hat and say, welcome, Dion Cup. Welcome to the commentary booth as a winner in the LMU Championship. And, well, as Steven said, and as discussed in our driver's briefing, coffee to the left, you leave the Nescafe crema mine, you can take some of Steven's, don't touch my crema, I will have fighting words with you. But welcome and congratulations on your first ever victory in the LMU Championship in the Ferrari of all cars. Well done. Give us a walkthrough.
Ferrari a contentious point in that sentence?
Okay, well, let me just say that both me and Steven don't really like the Ferrari. It sounds like it's a droney car where the gearbox is just as long as forever and has no tone in anything and just sounds like a droning generator. Yes, that's my word.
But it's easy to rotate at the apex. So
that is true. But walk us through this race, walk us through this victory, and just walk us through the emotions you're currently experiencing during this race.
Got taken out turn one, completely out of nowhere. I had nowhere to go. I thought my race was ruined, so I kind of just decided to drive for fun. And then I just had pace. I don't really know where it came from. I didn't practice all that much. I just kind of did my best, and it worked. And it was fantastic. I can't believe I won my first race. Completely unexpected.
I think you're one of the people who don't put pineapple on their pizzas, and the Italian gods smiled upon thee in the favor of this. Even though I do like pineapple on pizza, yes, controversial. But really, just how were the conditions out there? I mean, we saw you with great battles with the likes of Velatham and everybody else there. Was it tricky conditions? How would you find it? Because not many drivers had the experience has the knowledge and experience of driving in these conditions.
When it was really heavy, driving offline was better. But staying on the dry line, the drier line was better later on in the race. But it was a great experience. I think it's my first race in LMU in the rain. And that felt really good. I was really comfortable in the rain. That was very nice. I enjoyed that.
Well, you showed your prowess in wet weather racing. And now I'm going to hand you over to my fellow Ferrari hater. I'm joking, though. Fellow commentator, Steven Koenig, for any questions. And then finally, I believe we're going to open up the floor for you to give your victory speech and all of that. But Steven, take it away.
Oh, Dion, once again, a massive, massive welcome. I know there's a couple of Monday Night Racing fans that are going to be absolutely through the roof. I mean, you joined in rather late into the championship. You 9th in the championship after having 2 stellar runs. 1 in round 4, you came 4th. Round 5, you came in 7th. Now a first place on the charts. What's the game plan heading into the final round? Algarve being the circuit to either make or break it into the top 5.
Oh, well, I guess keep doing what I'm doing. It seems to be working. Don't really have much more than that for you, unfortunately.
That's perfectly fine. Little, but says a lot. That being said, before I let you go and enjoy the celebrations with the rest of the team, anything you'd like to say to all the sponsors, to the drivers, the teams, the admins, and also to the most important people here at Raceface.Pro, our absolutely amazing petrol heads here joining us at Fuji. Looks like
much words. We might have lost them there for a bit.
Oh, sorry, was I supposed to make a speech?
Well, it's up to you if you'd like to say something, or you can just silence and move.
No, sorry, I misunderstood. No, thank you guys for the event. I really enjoyed it. It was great fun. It's a great league. Nice, bunch of friendly faces. It's always good to see. Good to see the interest in sim racing, and it's one of my favorite hobbies. So, thank you so much. Thanks for the event, and thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely awesome. Dion Cup joining us. A massive, massive well done to him. Actually, when I first started sim racing, he was one of the first guys that told me to move out the way because I'm too slow. Just FYI.
And now the list has grown a lot longer. I'm joking.
Unfortunately, it is the case. Well, let's bring in our 3rd place of the hypercars, the likes of Delta Negative, young Clay Nuns.
No, honestly, no.
Welcome to the commentary box. Sorry for pulling you up out of the race room. But that being said, 3rd in the hypercar class. Absolute crazy start that threw you down the order. How are you feeling after the rain?
Hi, good evening, guys. Honestly, pretty decent. It was a fun race. We gambled a bit at the start, and it didn't end up paying off. So it was a recovery drive, but happy with the result. Very tricky. So happy, yeah.
Well, with that being said, you do take over from 2nd in the championship to 1st, means that it's going to be a monster shootout towards the end. Any concerns that going into the final round at Algarve next week?
Honestly, very concerned. Portimao is Chris's, to my knowledge, his strongest stack. So, and it's not mine at all. So we'll see what happens. We've got some practicing to do. I'll put in some time, but I'm in it to win it. So we'll see what happens.
Gonna be a wild one. That being said, I'm gonna hand you over to Cameron Bastos, one of our resident hypercar drivers. Over to you, Cam.
Racing hypercar drivers who despise us with the racing with hypercars. It's
fun,
tricky. No, absolutely despise it, but that's just about me being traumatized from my times within the car. But take us through this race. You did mention that you guys pulled the wrong strategy. Was that the same that happened between you and Crystal's? Maybe a bit of inter-team communication, and then made a bit of a whoopsie, saying, "Okay, wrong strategy."
Yeah, look, honestly, we thought the track wouldn't, get so much water so quickly. So initially, the tires would have stayed. If it had worked out, we would have had a lot of pace initially and made up the time for the pit. But the rain just came down so hard so quickly that 2nd lap we had to pit. Actually Chris, but it's 2nd lap. I needed to put 2nd lap, but I wanted to at least get myself a bit of an offset if possible. So I toughed it out. Wasn't the right decision at all. But I think all in all, good recovery. Chris got caught out in a bit of argy-bargy with one of the other guys. I'm not sure who. So he had a tough time, but for me, it works out in the championship, so I can't complain.
As you mentioned there, it works into your favor there. This accidents that happened tonight and the wet weather racing that's been a great equalizer. But yeah, taking the lead over in this championship puts a bit of a pressure on you. What's the game plan going into Algarve? Is it practice, 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 or
Yeah, it's
getting
practice,
that sweet
practice,
spot?
practice. No, it's Portimao is a very tricky technical track, and especially with traffic, it's going to be. I don't want to say a nightmare, but it's going to be tough. For me, at least, toughest race of the season, I believe, is going to be next week. So it's a lot of getting comfortable with the track. Portimao can catch you off guard so quickly with all the off camber, on camber. It's just so technical that things can go wrong in the blink of an eye. So I'm just going to put in the time, and hopefully I'll be rewarded.
Well, practice will definitely be of deliverance at the circuit like Algarve or Portimao. But any final words you would like to say to our amazing fans in the grandstand? Anybody out there, any challenging words to drivers as we head into the final round of our LMU Championship Season 1?
I think, as always, thanks to you guys, thanks to the sponsors, my teammates. We practice, we try and always perform the best that we can, and having a good team behind you pushes you to perform. So it's always good to have that backing, have that support. Everyone who's watching, thanks, and good luck to everyone for the rest of the championship.
You summed it up perfectly there. So thank you, young Kleinans. I'm going to let you go and practice, and celebrate with your teammates, team there in the background, and get your head back ready for the final round and final championship battle that you have going into Algarve. Congratulations again.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. And then finally, we're going to bring in the likes of Jeff Leroux, our hypercar victor, who has gone from heartbreak on Italian home soil to victory in the land of the rising sun. Jeff Leroux, welcome to the commentary box, and massively congratulations on your first victory in the LMU Championship.
Woo! Yes, boys, that was something. Yeah.
I mean, I can just assume the amount of emotions that you're currently feeling from. I mean, we all saw the disastrous ending to a phenomenal fight that we had at Monza, and now you're standing on the top step, sipping on the champagne and just embracing the victory. It must be something amazing to experience.
Yeah, definitely in LMU. This race was something else because, the wet weather conditions, and I saw the Oaks put on mediums in front of me. I thought that is a bit risky. And then when they just couldn't hold the tires, and I just kept focus, and I just put my head down, and I didn't want to do lap times and push the car, and I just kept the car steady, tried to, and took it to the end. Like Monza, unfortunately, I ran out of fuel there again. So yeah, this was the comeback that I was hoping for, and I just pushed it to the end,
We keep on bringing up the fuel issue, but you mentioned here's a little something that we took note of as you crossed the line. You made sure in this race that you had enough fuel and plenty of fuel in order to cross the line. I mean, you had 26% of energy remaining, so I think you learned your lesson the hard way there. But yeah, it's a bit of a shocking one that we all saw. All the top running cars diving into the pits all of a sudden, and we were quite shocked because it all happened just suddenly. But you gave all the drivers around, even the GT3s, gave us a bit of an insight, saying the drivers started on dries and then suddenly we switched to wet, and then had to battle their way through the back markers. I think you were one of the drivers that started on the wets and just kept on cruising.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was something I thought to myself, because I tried the wets in dry conditions and they seemed to hold on for quite a few laps. So I thought if the beginning of the race is going to be dry, then I can carry on through the wet. And I know on LMU it takes a while for the track to actually dry. So I knew I'll be safe with the wets either way,
Okay, well, you did your testing, you found it out, but now give us a bit of an idea. Wet weather racing, in favor or not in favor?
To tell you the honest truth, I was on the edge the whole race, and that's what I actually love. I love the focus. You have to tell yourself, the track is still wet. Don't push, don't push, don't push. Just keep a constant lap time. And that's what I did, and I really enjoyed it. And the wet weather, these hypercars, there's no forgiveness. So I made sure I didn't lose the car on exit, but if I lost it on braking, that's okay-ish. I wouldn't lose too much time. So I locked up a couple of times here and there, but I tried not to lose the car on the exits, and I think that's what kept the position for me.
Well, it's always great to see. I mean, Ren is always a great equalizer in terms of skills, and you've proven that you are the master of wet weather racing in the Japanese countryside. But now, finally, to wrap off the interview, I'm going to give the floor to you. Any challenging words you want to say to a competitor out there? I mean, nobody has a solid sole grip on the championship trophy. It's open for anybody, but the floor is yours. Keep it PG, of course. And give a challenging word for the comment. Well, not commentators. Well, always for the commentators. Also, just some challenging words to up our game, But also for our amazing fans, give anyone you want to give a shout out to, and then also challenging words for any competitor that you want to go wheel to wheel racing with.
The challenge is always good to have. There's always, people have their favorite tracks. So, Deerwald is he seems to be on sort of my page. I know that the Chris and them, they just get that extra second somehow in a dry weather. So, that's something I need to work on. These cars are very tricky. You have to work on the brakes. But Chris did give me some advice. Very cool. Thanks to him. And I would like to also say thanks to the sponsors and you guys, Simulator Cave and Rhino Utility, and Raceface, of course. You guys have definitely brought us some fun, on a Wednesday night.
Well, it's always a pleasure from myself and Stephen and the THT production team to showcase the talent that we have in our amazing community that is Raceface.Pro. But I'm going to let you go, celebrate with the team, and if you want to just slide myself and Stephen a stereo stumpy there, mine with the ice in it, Stephen the boring regular one. Stephen is going to give me a very weird look here on the side, but really go and enjoy it, and congratulations on the victory that you have won here today at Fuji Speedway in the gorgeous shadow of Mount Fuji.
Thanks, Cameron, and thanks, Stephen. You're a legend. Thanks, appreciate it.
Well, Stephen, that has brought us to the end of a phenomenal race that is round 6 at Mount Fuji at Fuji Speedway. Thoughts, comments? What do you take away from this championship?
Wow. Honestly, close championship. No one knows where it's going to go. First, second, and third is up for grabs in both classes. Season 1 is promising to set the bar really high, and many of the competitors hoping to really fly through. I won't lie, I'm quite tempted to go out in the BMW and see if I can try and brave the conditions here at Fuji. We'll give it my best, but I did go and have a little bit of sushi in the background to have a bit of fun. But honestly, it's been a stellar time, and I got to say, I love the weather. The change coming in, it really adds a little bit of spice to the racing, and something that most competitors don't usually run in. So it does challenge you as a sim racer to go and adapt your skills, try and figure out what's going to work and where you're going to find that little bit of an edge in the championship instead of just a straight dry race that we've had all season long.
Absolutely, Stephen. I mean, we saw the carnage that was caused by a little bit of wet weather racing all the way at Le Mans, and now we have a full wet race with a bit of a dry running at the end, but it caused carnage. It brought entertainment, it brought heart-in-mouth moments, and it brought edge-of-seat action, and it's something that I think a lot of our, me and you as commentators, as well as our amazing fans would absolutely love to see. So, yeah, but now we're heading over to the land of Portugal, Algarve, Portimao. The circuit is actually Circuit of Algarve, I believe. But Portimao for our more mundane people. Me and you both know it as a very up and down hilly racetrack with a lot of weird banking and very tricky downhill braking into turn 1, where track limits are not your favor if you go exploring a bit. I think it's going to be a phenomenal final for our inaugural LMU Season 1 championship, and I think it's going to bring a lot more fighting again till the very end. I don't know, what's your predictions?
I think we're going to see drivers having to push the edge and really going to be working that fine line between running out of fuel or running with too much fuel. That give it all that you got till the very end to fight it out. Doesn't matter what position you're in. And I think we may see a couple of new faces joining on the grid as well. So it's going to be a bit of an exciting one. Once again, a massive, massive thank you to all our sponsors, Simulator Cave, SBR, Rhino Utility, and the likes of Virtual Motorheads coming in, being part of the show here at Raceface.Pro. And also, we've got those fantastic trophies that will be coming through as well to our first, second, and third of both classes for Season 1 of the LMU Championship. Massive thank you to all the admins, stewards behind the scenes, also to our marshals that were braving the wet conditions out there. Big shout out to them. We've got to say, even in virtual form, they work so hard. But also, most importantly, a massive, massive thank you to all our spectators out there in the virtual grandstands who are busy joining us and giving a good show. We also have a little bit of a crown on the head for some as #1 supporters. So shout out to you guys for coming back week after week after week and sticking around for such a long time with us. We're glad to have you guys. And also, once again, we want to reward you, the spectators, with a little bit more as well. So keep an eye out on the social media as we're looking at some prizes coming your way, not just the driver's way. But Cam, honestly, that's me. I'm quite happy with this, but we've got to say farewell. I'm going to go and enjoy the sights of Mount Fuji. So I'll leave the closing to you.
Oh, well, don't just go wandering all the way away, Stephen, because me and you still have a bit of a discussion to do in planning on how we're going to get to Portimao. But no, I'm phenomenal. As Stephen said, he pretty much said thanks to everybody out there in a virtual grandstand. It absolutely makes our job so much more enjoyable, great interacting, and also being able to show our enthusiasm for the love that we have for motorsports. So really, really thank you for all our amazing spectators and our sponsors, Rhino Utility, Team SBR, Simulator Cave, and Virtual Motorhead, and then also THC Productions for giving us the platform and being able to showcase you the talent that we have here at Raceface.Pro. Now is all the way to the land of Futurish and sunny skies. Portugal awaits for us. The land of Portimao awaits for us. And as half Portuguese, the land of pride for myself is waiting for us. I bid you all a phenomenal Wednesday evening. Stay dry, stay warm, and I'll see you all next week. Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody, from THD Production and myself and Stephen Koenig.